So I'm going to do a reaction video to a rig rundown. So Primeir Guitar does rig rundowns. This one is my favorite. We'll start with my favorites. Vernon Reid from Living Colour. He's one of my favorite guitar players. They're one of my favorite bands.
Been doing a thing with PRS.
So this guitar is from 2016, this video. This predates them making the Vernon Reid S2, which is gold like that, had his custom pickguard. I really regret not getting that S2.
And I've known Paul for a very long time, so it's sort of the first time he's actually built a guitar for me, based on their S2 Vela, but when I saw the body shape, I fell in love with it, and the first thing I asked was, is it possible to put a Floyd on it?
So obviously, if you know Vernon, he's been with Hamer and ESP, and he's always had a Floyd. And if you know Paul Reed Smith guitars, especially Paul Reed Smith or Paul Smith, you know that he's not a fan of Floyd Rose guitars. In fact, he's used to say he would never stick one on a guitar, basically. And I think what changed that was artists like Vernon coming in and basically like, I like what you do here, I like the quality, but this is not what I want.
This guitar has a V-shaped neck.
That's another crazy thing. This guitar has a V-shaped neck.
Paul actually took the prototype and shaped the neck himself.
Oh, wow. So this is kind of an amalgam of different things that you like that Paul put together for you?
Absolutely. Also, he built, like, my mentor, Carlos Santana's, you know, that was the first time.
So I did not know that Carlos Santana was a mentor to Vernon Reid. I'm going to have to do some more research on that, learn more about that, because that's a story I'm more interested probably than this rig rundown.
This also has a hex pickup Roland.
Okay, so he's calling that the hex pickup system. A lot of players will probably know that as a synth pickup that allows the guitar to plug into a 13-pin MIDI cable to a synth device that he can use to do everything from synthetic string sounds to drums to you name it. The model that you buy from PRS does not have this system.
And you're running EMG pickups?
EMGs,
That's always been your thing, right?
For a long time. Actually, EMGs, some Seymour Duncans, but EMGs early on I had some DiMarzios in my early ESPs, but then also Tom Anderson.
They don't go into why he likes EMGs. My guess is, here's some guesses. I'm just going to give you some stuff. And again, that's the whole point of doing a reaction video. Part of the benefit of having that onboard preamp, but it's basically got to think about that's basically what's happening with those pickups, okay? You have EMGs and they're battery powered. He's got to run a lot of signal. I'm sure those EMGs do that very well.
This switch is only magnetic, a mix of magnetic and hex only.
Oh, cool.
This tech's been around for a while. Interestingly enough, the whole pitch to MIDI guitar modeling thing has been evolving really rapidly.
Right.
So what he's obviously speaking about is the fact that it's been around for a long time, since the 80s, of course. But the tracking on the stuff has been improved vastly. Some of you guys may remember when you would do bends, the synth wouldn't track right. You'd play too fast and then it wouldn't track right. He has two buttons. They don't really mention this, so they're in his pickguard. And those are his switches that he can select through the synth system he's using, whatever he's using. He can go up and down. They don't really talk about that.
Can we talk about your amps?
Yeah, man, I'm a Boogie dude.
Me too.
Basically, this is an old, early 90s Recto. This is like the first head. This is a Tremolo Verb, and basically they're both powering two Recto caps. But I'm also running a Kemper
I saw the
profiling
Kemper.
amp.
Oh, wow.
I've been doing this thing with these kind of splitting multing mixers. They're these little mixers. I found them, DOD makes them.
Huh. Yeah, it was back in the day, the 4 knobs.
They're pretty versatile.
Yep, there they are. So it's a 240 resistance mixer.
They're mono, they're 4 in and 1 out, or they're 1 in and 4 out.
Yep.
So they serve as, you can mix a signal, but you could also mult a signal.
Oh.
And so that's part of the thing. Like, a lot of what I'm doing is parallel processing. It's not in series at all.
Okay, this is where it's going to go off the rails for a lot of players. And let me explain what he's saying. So you could do what I said, which is you could plug 4 instruments or 4 things into that 240 mixer, and then it comes out to one thing, right? So let's say you got, 4 guitars, you plug into them, and you can put 4 guitars into 1 amp. However, you could also plug 1 guitar into the other side, so the output immediately comes an input. So what he's saying is he's running parallel. Imagine you had 4 guitar amps on stage. You could plug your guitar into that mixer in the 1 input, and then run 4 lines out to each amplifier.
The magnetic pickups are coming from the guitar out, and using these kind of mono splitters, it's like 1 in, 4 out. I'm able to feed this pedal setup. I feed the Kemper. I feed the iPad. I feed the various guitar synth things. But they're all happening. They're all in parallel.
So these two are feeding these. The
These.
Kemper is going direct out.
The Kemper is actually going into the power. Basically, I'm using the power sections.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Right.
Wow. Okay. We'll keep watching, and then we'll go through it.
The VG99 goes into this pedal setup. It goes out from the H9s into a left and right kind of mult.
Yeah.
And the Kemper is going also in the left right of the mult. So they're kind of it's bananas.
Yeah.
Kind of like I said, the first analogy I used, which is 4 different amps. He's getting a full sound. I mean, he's 1 guitar player. So at some point, he's going to sound like 4 guitar players playing. And a lot of you are probably like, this is insane, because it is, but in a good way. But it's like, how long does it set this up? Well, but think about the cost-wise. This looks like it costs a lot to bring with you, because it does, but it costs a lot less than feeding a second musician and getting a full sound, and that's probably what he's after. And this is all just my guess. Like I said, this is a reaction video. I'm just reacting to what I see to you, like you guys. You might be seeing different things. You can put that in the comments.
Let's get into this pedalboard business.
Yeah, sure. So I have a few H9. This thing right here by Source Audio. This is like their classic distortion. Well, this is a Flashback. It's a really nice
It's going to hit
delays.
one of those pedals.
It's like a kind of comb filtering. This is a pedal by Catlin Bread. And it's kind of funny because it does this glitchy stuff.
That's a good pedal. Another great pedal for that is the Fuzz Factory by Zvex. It'll do this too. It's basically that's a fuzz you're hearing with a gate. It's gated to holy hell, so it's just cutting out the signal like crazy.
You can control what it does by moving the volume knob.
And the reason you can control it with the volume knob is as you back volume off, the gate is going to start choking things off, right? Because it's got a threshold set for volume, kill all that stuff off. So yeah, you can use it like a stuttering effect, all kinds of stuff.
This is very special because Nicholas, the president of the company, recently passed away, and it's kind of like.
I wanted to point out, notice that he's not just saying, "Oh, this is my Zoom pedal." He's talking about the president and how he passed away, and that tells you it's backs to this industry what it's really about. It's about people. Music is about bringing people together, and people who get music get people.
These little Moore distortions, which are pretty wild, like this black one, the Black Secret, which is kind of like a rat.
This is a pro-level musician, right? He's got albums. They're playing places. Look at it. He's got Zoom. He's got Moore. He's got TC. Obviously, he's got a Strymon somewhere. He's got this Eventide. This Eventide right here is probably, $800, and these pedals are $79, and this thing was probably $150. The point is that you use what works, what sounds good, and that's what he's doing. And he's not really looking at everything as like, oh, well, how dare I put a $79 Moore pedal next to this Eventide thing? Yeah, he just has a problem. He's solving it with the gear that works, and it works out great.
And that goes to the combo.
Okay.
So all of those go to that combo, which, as we talked about earlier, he's got the 4 lines out minimum. Remember, he has probably more going on, but he's running 4 lines out. 1 line goes to that pedal board to that amp, which gets mic'd, and that's on one of the faders on the mix out to the audience. So again, that's essentially 1 guitar player. So he can leave that on and be switching all kinds of other stuff. So if he was to pick any one of those sounds you heard, like those time, and leave that on the whole show, he could be playing even when he's playing clean, even when he's playing dirty. Because you're thinking about it, he's probably tap dancing. But I've seen Living Color live, and he's not tap dancing on all these pedals. He's really knows when to hit them and when not to hit them. So I think some of them are probably just left on.
Over here, these are the effects associated with the VG99. Also, there's an H9 on here, but there's also a pitch factor, which I still love that pedal. They're both made by Eventide. And there's an M9 stomp box modeler.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's been modified
pedal
by Jack Vaughn.
So what I want you to imagine right now
and
is that sound he was just making with the guitar. Imagine that's happening. He's got his other rig going. That's the distortion. That's the guitar player. And so he could be compartmentalizing and using these at one at a time. When I watched him on the live, he was doing that too. But what I'm saying is he could do that, and then he can layer this stuff on top of each other.
And then over here in this madness,
and this is all the actual synthesizer type of things. So this is like
So that's the actual, okay, so he was talking about the VG. This is the actual synth unit that's probably hooked up to the MIDI pedal, or the MIDI cable on his guitar.
This is actually kind of a older school thing. It's
I think I had that
utilizing
exact
the
unit.
13 pin.
13 pin.
More the traditional pitch to MIDI thing. But this here, that's an old GR20. This here is a SY300. You don't need a hex pickup for it.
It's because the processing, remember I was talking about the latency and the processing had gotten so much better over the years that this thing promises that you can get a lot of these synth sounds using your magnetics. Maybe his model doesn't have a synth pickup because he's not using one anymore. Maybe he just said screw it and he was like, I'm going to go to this. When I saw him live, it was definitely after this, but I didn't pay attention to whether or not his model had synth pickups. So if I'm keeping track of this, he's got one line going to this pedal board right here, which is going to this Supro. That's one guitar player. We're going to say the second line goes to this, which is like synthy guitar stuff. And so that's going, we don't know where, obviously somewhere in this rig to another isolated amp, it looks like, of some sort. And then now this is the actual synth. So this is three separate guitar players three separate sounds and sources and outputs that he's got created here. If you've seen him live, these sounds make more sense. In this context, it doesn't. It just sounds like, why does he have this weird noises? But when you see him live, they can really turn all that into something that's fun to enjoy to watch. A
lot of interesting things. Now, another thing that I've got going on is Electro Harmonix has come out with a series of pedals like the B9. It's basically like a guitar organ, so you plug into it and you get the sound of an organ. They just came out.
So they have the C9, the B9, and the K9. K9 is the keyboards, the B9 is the organs.
And it gives you the sound of...
So that's the Mel 9. Okay, like I said, there's a Mel 9 too as well. There's C9, B9, K9, and the Mel 9. I think there's one other too as well.
A Mellotron. And it's
that's a
completely
Mellotron.
bonkers.
Oh, let's hear that.
I absolutely love those pedals, by the way. I think the average guitar player, if you don't want to get into a keyboard system or into elaborate things, or you don't need trumpet sounds, you don't need 50,000 things, dude, if you just really, the one that does the Hammond organ one, literally is just fantastic. And the same thing, you can split off your sound, your guitar sound, with an ABY box or one of these mini mixers like his. But ABY box is nice because you can actually turn off using that system and have, instead of what he's got to do, which is he's got to go and use volume pedals to shut everything down. But his rig is so elaborate, he needs all that stuff. You know, he needs a mixing system. But for the average Joe, you get the AB box or an ABY, it's up to you, and you plug into one of those C9, B9, Mel 9s, K9s, and run that off to like the PA system or to a clean amp if you want to do that, and then run your regular guitar sound. Man, it's like having a keyboard player.
Just plugging straight in, and I don't know how they do it.
Wow.
It's polyphonic.
Wow.
Yep. Okay, so again, because it's a reaction video, polyphonic. So there's monophonic and polyphonic. Monophonic means like you could play a note. Polyphonic means I could strum a whole chord, even a big open chord where there's a lot of noise going on with all 6 strings going crazy. The system tracks fast enough that it can isolate each one, especially, which is really crazy, knowing that The original hex pickups, what they were doing was, unlike your magnetic pickup it's got 6 pull pieces, but it's sending out one signal of all 6 strings. The hex pickups send out 6 signals. They send out 6 individual signals to the processor, which then broke down each string, to itself, and then sent out the sound to get that polyphonic kind of thing going on. Where this does it all without anything. And again, it's because processors. Because obviously, look at the phones today. It's easy to put a chip in a $150, $200 box now that does stuff like that. Where back in the day, that was a big deal.
So are these running before the Boss? Or?
They're running. They're not. You know what? They're not running. The Boss is running by itself.
Okay.
Okay. So again, John is trying to comprehend this rig, and it's really hard to comprehend. And he's trying to figure out where in this. So like us, like a normal guitar players, where it's like, okay, I put my compressor, and then after my compressor is my, whatever, my overdrive pedal, and my overdrive pedal to my reverb to my delay, or my delay to reverb, whatever, in order. He's trying to figure out what order is this all going in. And what Vernon's basically saying is that essentially he's running out multiple lines so that each thing's running to its own source and is run simultaneously, which is, so... There you go, in parallel.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Right? This box right here is being fed.
By the way, this is a silly thing to point out, but Korg did this thing where they sold Korg clip-on tuners, and they came in a can of tuna. So right there, see this tuna fish on there? You can see it. You can see Korg on the lid. See Korg? And then right there, you can see Korg. This was the... and he's got his picks and his stuff in it, so he's using it he probably puts all this stuff in the can. And so I'm sure Korg, either he bought that in the store, or Korg gave him the can of tuna, with the tuner in it, and he's used it. But so I just thought, if in case any of you are wondering, why does he have an old tuna fish can? He doesn't.
By another one of these boxes, right?
Okay.
Yeah. There's a box down there that's feeding this box.
Dude, he's got lots of those boxes. I've already seen in this video, if you're paying attention, I've seen 5 of them, I think, 4 or 5 of them.
And it does.
And that's not including the fact that I think he said passively, real fast, 2 of them are behind the Kemper.
It without adding artifacts or degradation.
Wow,
it's
that's
really
great.
transparent.
So by really transparent, what he means is each thing's isolated from each other, so they're not causing any bleed through or issues. Again, I like the original way we started looking at this. Think of it as simple as he has 4 different amps, and 4 amps are mic'd up, basically. That's not really what's going on here, but let's just say it that way. And so he can run 4 different pedals, pedal boards in front of each amp, splitting them all. I know I'm kind of being redundant here, but I just want to make sure you guys understand what this is. This is a very unique rig in the rig rundown series for sure.
There's a couple of builders that you can find on Etsy that are also doing this, but Digitech DOD, they came out with the original ones.
Wow, that's great.
And I found, and I happened to find out about it by accident.
What he's talking about, those mixers are made by DOD. They are no longer made. So you have to find the old ones, which they used to run cheap, who knows now. But what he's saying is if you can't find one of those, you can go on Etsy and all kinds of builders will make them. It's a passive box. It runs no power, by the way. It's essentially 4 volume potentiometers and 4 output jacks and 1 input jack, or output jack, depending on, like I said, the direction you go. That's why it can go either direction. It's a passive box. There's no battery in it. There's no nothing. They do have versions with batteries. The batteries will probably only be there to light up the LEDs if they're using LEDs. This box does not. If you'd like me to do more reaction videos, let me know what Primeir Guitar or what rig rundown. It doesn't have to be the actual rig rundown. There's a lot of copycats of Primeir Guitar doing rig rundowns. I'd like to just react to rig. Like I said, just like I did now, honestly, just go through all the stuff I see anything that's different, interesting, and give my perspective on it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and know your gear.